This is where the Africa Energy Indaba is taking place. It's taking place, Elvis, in the backdrop of a very depressed mineral commodity time, which means that across the continent, our Africa minerals and our prices are not doing very well. So it has an adverse impact on the economy. But we also know of the kind of challenges that the energy sector in Africa is under. We know that there's a lot of demand and very little generation capacity. During the opening today at the Mining Indaba, the Zambian Minister of Mines, Ms. Dora Silia, and Dr. Real Khoza were on the panel, and they'll tell us about the most salient features that they spoke about with regards to the energy demand in Africa in particular. Minister Dora Silia, thank you very much for your time. What is the most pressing issue with regards to energy in Africa that you think should be given the utmost attention?
I think for me, the most important is to ensure that first there's clarity in terms of policy, in terms of regulation, in terms of investment incentives, but because clearly with this deficit in generation, many governments, including my own government, we're not going to be able to meet the cost. So we need private sector investment, and to attract private sector investment, it means that we must address issues surrounding the tariff and issues that surround investment processes in the country so that there are no delays for the private sector.
Dr. Khoza, you had very salient points with regards to tariff applications and the cost of electricity. Take us through those just briefly.
Perhaps we should start with a slightly bigger picture. The minister has spoken about the need for policy, and I want to believe that policy is expressed in the context of a broader vision, and that vision has got to be continental. But you cannot address the entire continent in one fell swoop. So the theme for this conference was actually regional integration. And the kind of work that Zambia and Zimbabwe are doing on a number of projects actually is illustrative of a nucleus of regional cooperation. That's extendable to Mozambique, extendable to South Africa, is extendable also westward to regions like Katanga, and further down to Namibia. But having said that, where tariffs are concerned, unless there is a clear tariffs policy and is cost reflective, for me as Globlack, as one of the independent power producers, I'll have serious difficulty making a decision to come and invest, because transparency is key, because knowing what the tariffs are at the cost level and whatever the markup is important for me as an investor. It is important also for the consumer, so that the basis on which we finally agree on the price that is optimal is actually informed by that.
Mr. Silia, Dr. Khoza speaks about transparency with regards to tariff costs. Do you think that the African government is ready to give that to independent power producers and other energy producers?
Well, within the SADC region, the ministers of energy already committed to migrate to cost-reflective tariffs by 2019. And in Zambia, we already have almost 5 to 6 independent power producers. So you're already talking to the converted. I think what we want to see encouraged is more independent power producers, and in other sources of energy, not just hydro, but in solar and in other sources of energy, so that we have an energy mix, because this is what we've learned from this crisis, that it is not enough to depend on one source of energy.
And just lastly, Dr. Khoza, do you think there is enough space for independent power producers in the South African context with regards to making sure that they feed into the grid? We know of the energy challenges that we currently have.
I think there's ample space, and South Africa has actually amply demonstrated that where independent power producers are concerned, they opened up the contest, and there are many independent power producers. In South Africa alone, Globlack has what you might call 2.5, one in Jeffreys Bay, another one in Drogfontein outside DR, and we have been shortlisted for one at a place called Diamond Winds. My sense is that given the demand, there is wide scope, but I believe the authorities have opted to be systematic and professional about actually opening up that space. And I can see there being scope for further deliberations and more independent power producers coming to play.
Dr. Khoza, let me not hold you up any further. Thank you so much for your time.
Reporter Liabo Setho there earlier at the Africa Energy Indaba.